I'm gonna make you host. There we go. Now if I get cut off again, we can keep this going.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
All right, we'll get started in just another minute. We'll wait for a few more people to come in, and then we'll get this started.
You guys.
And if you guys have any questions, we have some that people have written before, but if you have more, you can go into the chat right now and just message it, and we're gonna, Cathal's gonna start in just another minute. Oh, there's Peter's face. Been here a while, I haven't seen your face yet. All right.
Yeah, depending how many people jump on here, sometimes it's easier if you just mute your mic until you want to ask a question. That way, there's not too much background noise coming through. So you can also use the comment box if you rather just type your question. But yeah, sometimes that helps a little bit. Okay, we'll wait. I got just 2 on right now. We'll just wait another couple of minutes, guys, to see if we get some more people on, and then we'll jump right in. Be a semi-private sales training session.
This is good, guys. This is good.
let's just start. As people join, they can join us in. Um, I think there's a couple more people have messaged me saying they are coming on the call, but let's. All right. Well, let's start. And of course, I got about 6 different kind of topics I thought would be relevant for the discussion today. But it is a small group, so I want to keep it pretty open, and I'll let you guys kind of drive the agenda here a little bit. So I want you to feel free as we go through these different topics that just jump in with questions, whether they're related to the topic that I'm talking about or a similar topic. Feel free to just jump in with your questions. Okay, I want this to be valuable for what you guys are looking for. I did want to start off just with the very first thing I think with sales is like on a scale of 1 to 5, do you consider yourself a salesperson? Like 1 being no, I'm not a salesperson, to 5 being yeah, I'm that guy from like Wolf of Wall Street. Like where would you be on that scale? 4, Peter? Now, Scott, what about yourself now? 4? Good. Okay. Awesome. Because I think if sometimes in it's not just personal trainers, I think business owners in general don't often consider themselves salespeople. They consider that to be an activity or a role that they have to do, but they don't see that as first and foremost. And I think that if you can get your head around the fact that you are first and foremost a salesperson, that it's going to really help position the value of that strategy, of that part of the business and what you do. So that would be the very first thing, is like accept the fact and embrace the fact that you are a salesperson. And what you sell happens to be extremely valuable to people, but first and foremost, you are a salesperson. Tied in with that mindset of being a salesperson is selling is brutally hard on your mindset. You can have a fantastic year in business, and then you can have 2 weeks where you're not selling a single person, or 1 week or 2 days, and you start to question internally if you can even do this, if what you have is sellable, if you're able to sell. And like I've been selling fitness-based memberships for over 20 years. I've been working with AJ for coming up on over 1.5 years. I've been working directly selling PT Freedom. I have weeks where I wonder, can I do this? Because it doesn't take very much for this to start going crazy, right? And so I think it's really important that you strengthen your mind and be resilient and focused and in control of what's happening in your brain. So when it comes to the mindset around selling, any thoughts on that, guys, in terms of your own mindset about selling? Have you had those doubts creep in? Just unmute your audio and chat away here. We don't have to do the group chat. There's just a couple of us.
I've definitely had that happen before as well, especially in car sales. I went like 21 days without making a single deal, and I was so burnt out. I was ready to like quit. That was game over.
So what do you do when those thoughts creep in?
Nowadays, I try not to take it personally and just give myself a break if I find myself getting too obsessive about it. And go like reset, like maybe hit a steam room or like run around the block or something and then come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really important to change your state, because there's no way you're going to attract, more sales or successes if you're in that kind of mode.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Peter. And here's the thing. What I do when I'm feeling like my mindset is being affected by a series of kind of deals that didn't close that I thought were going to be closing, and you start to kind of second guess yourself, is I go back to basics as much as I can. I go back to my original framework for my sales. I go back and I read success stories of people who have gone, who have sold into this program or previously in my other programs, and I go back and I remind myself that people do need and want what it is we offer, and I basically build up my confidence again by refueling myself with what I know has worked in the past, and I get reset that way. So I'm not living in the current moment of interrupted success. I reset my mindset and my belief system and my experience. I basically relive that period, and I try to bring that energy to the now, right? So if you've had a week where you had an amazing week, go back to that week and remind yourself what was going on in that week, and try to tap into that energy and bring it to the table when you're in that kind of difficult period. So I think mindset. There's lots of great resources out there. AJ provides a lot of different things on that. So I don't think we can ever underestimate it. But I think that the easiest way for me to get my mindset right, Avon, easiest way for me to get my mindset right is to go back and put myself in that context, like when things were going well, and go back to my basic, framework and script for whatever I'm doing, and go about it that way. So that would be, a strategy around mindset that I use. Tied to that is a concept called pricing. Are you guys familiar with that terminology, pricing?
No.
Okay. So, it kind of goes with the mindset piece, because if you're in a place of like scarcity and you're concerned about getting clients and you feel you really need clients, there is a tendency for you to, figuratively and literally bend over backwards to get those clients to sign up with you, okay? And in essence, they're made to feel like they're the ones that are being enticed into becoming clients of yours, because you really want that client. So you're like, trying your hardest to make it an incredibly incentivized decision for them. The challenge with that is that you sometimes can attract not the best clients for you, and sometimes you sign people up that you really wouldn't otherwise work with if you didn't really feel the need for the financial or what have you, benefit of it. So the concept of pricing is that you kind of turn the tables on that. The client has to qualify to work with you, and you come at it with a mindset of abundance, and you present what you're offering more in a sense where they need to tell you why you should work with them. Like, why should you help them? Like, you've got lots of people that need your help. You can choose who to work with. Why should you choose to work with them? And I would even encourage you to start asking almost that direct question. Why would I help you with my program? What makes you a good fit? What makes you a good candidate? And what in essence happens when you use that concept of pricing and you kind of turn the tables from a traditional sales approach, which is look at everything I can do, pick me, what happens is they start to tell you, and tell themselves more importantly, why they should sign up with you, why they should work with you. So it's a very powerful positioning to take psychologically in a sales call. Any questions on that concept? Because it is tied directly to your own mindset and your approach.
It's genius. That's all I can say.
Yeah, there's some really, AJ has, obviously carries that philosophy with him strongly when he's talking to prospective clients, and holds dear to it. There are other people in the field that are very much promoting that concept of sales approach. And I would encourage you to really take some time to think about the kinds of questions you're asking people, so they are in that position where they feel authentically that they have to qualify to work with you. And they should. They really, really should, because if they don't feel that, then they're probably not going to be a great client anyway, because you can sell people through manipulation, you can sell them through incentives, you can sell them a whole variety of ways. But if you really want a client that's committed, that's going to be with you for the long term, they have to choose. They have to choose, and they have to choose for the right reasons. So that concept goes well beyond just getting the sale. It actually helps with retention for the long term in that regard. All right. So that's the concept of pricing that I wanted just to touch on. Again, if you have questions about this, feel free to just jump in. Okay, so mindset, getting our mindset right, keeping it right, because it's easy to get pulled off when you have a couple of bad days. Using the concept of pricing, very important, to make sure the relationship is set up correctly, that you are the one that is, that they are seeking. Third topic related to this relates to stats, your statistics. Sometimes we need reminders that things aren't as bad as we think they are. And sometimes we need reminders that we're in control of the outcomes in our business. And the way to do that is to be diligent with tracking your numbers. So going back to the 1 to 5 scale, how good are you right now with tracking the key metrics in your business from 1 to 5, with 1 being, sorry, failed grade 2 math, can't help you, with 5 being, oh, you're 1? We got 1s on here? Okay, Scott, what about yourself? 1 to 2, okay. So here's the thing with the stats, you only really need to know 4 or 5 stats in this type of business to really be in top. And the great thing is once you measure and know these numbers, you're in control of your income. Okay, so I'm going to run through this. Yeah, Scott says I'm good at math, but terrible at organizing. And I think that the challenge we face in business is there's a lot of things we can measure. There's a lot of things going on that we can get sucked into. But here's the handful of stats I think you need to track. And once you know these, you literally can control your income. So the first stat you need to track, and I'll go through them in the order. I'll go through them from back to front, actually, because when you work with them back to front, you can reverse engineer control over them. So first stat you need to know is how much income is coming in. What is your sales volume each month? Like how many dollars are you actually collecting from people? You need to know that number, 100%. Second number, stat that you need to know is how many actual sales did you convert? So how many new sales are you doing each month? And you just track this as you go through. You can use a simple spreadsheet to do it. The next stat you need to know is how many appointments that were scheduled with you actually showed up. So what's your conversion rate from people who schedule an appointment to people who actually show up to that appointment? And that's, again, an easy math to figure out. You get 20 people scheduled and 10 of them showed up at the appointment. You got a 50% show rate. Okay? And the reason this is important, all these stats are important, is because once you isolate all of these activities, you can choose which areas to focus on to improve. Okay, so sales, income, number 1, obviously. That's the and one. Number of sales in a month, it's an easy one to track. Number of appointments that showed up versus the number that were scheduled. Okay, that's the next step. The next stat is how many applications that completed scheduled an appointment. Now you can collect this application count from your Wufoo account. You can just track it by the emails that come in with applications that get completed. So how many people that filled out an application actually ended up scheduling an appointment? That's another stat.
What do you mean scheduling an appointment? You mean signing up?
No, scheduled a time to come in with you from the application. So if you've got
how many apps completed scheduled a transformation session, right?
Yeah. So because that will tell you, like, let's say you had 20 applications, but only 2 people scheduled an appointment. That tells you there's a breakdown in the process between application and follow-up to schedule the appointment. So that's the area that needs your attention. Okay. So application. The next stat you need to track, and this is pretty well the last one, is how many people opted into your funnel that filled out an application. Okay? So let's just run through this little statistical sequence here to how it could play out. Let's say in a given month you had 50 people opt into your funnel. Out of those 50 people, 25 filled in an application. Out of the 25, 12 scheduled an appointment, 6 showed up, 3 were sold. You made $3,000 from $1,000 appointment. Let's say it's like 50, 50, 50 all the way along. Okay, cool. So how does this help me in my business? Well, what is the one metric in that whole sequence that you control 100%?
The follow-up?
The follow-up you have impact on, you have influence on, but you can't really control it.
I would say the sale.
The sale, again, you can improve your sales conversion, you can have impact on it, but you can't fully control it.
I forget the rest of the steps.
What's that?
I forget the rest of the steps.
Okay, really there's only one you control, and that's the opt-in. Like, you can spend more money, drive more traffic. You can go organically and stand outside the supermarket with your iPad and get people to opt in to your funnel. If once you know your conversion rates along the way, the only stat that you really can have control over is the opt-in. Yeah, number one, the very first one, opting into your funnel. Once you get more opt-ins, you know that's going to result in more applications. You know that's going to result in more appointments. You know it's going to result in more show rates and more sales and ultimately more money. So all those other metrics in there, you can influence, but you don't necessarily have the same level of control as you have over opt-ins. So I want you, if you're not already, having this continuum laid out for your selling process, start to track all those things, start to just measure them. What we focus on expands, is the old adage, and it's very true. Know your numbers, grow your numbers. That's the idea here. So if you know your conversion rates, and Scott, and Peter, I agree with you. You've got to be able to improve all those other metrics. You got to improve your show rates. You got to improve your sales conversions. Oftentimes, the easiest thing to improve is to get 200 people to opt into your funnel next month. That's the easiest thing to improve, because you can do activities to make that happen. You can spend money to make that happen. I had multiple locations, and in one of my locations, their sales conversion was under 50% each month. The other locations were converting around 65, 70%. So, and I've shared this story, maybe you've heard me say it before, but I basically had two options to that location that was converting below 50%. I could either go down there and beat them over the head and try to improve their sales conversion so they're up over 60%, or I simply go back to my laptop and drive more traffic to the sales funnel so they get in front of more people, so they end up hitting the same sales targets as the other locations, without their sales conversion having to drastically improve. So which one do you think I chose to do?
That one. Drive more.
Both of them. At first I go down and I beat them over the head to try to get their sales conversions up, and then I go home and drive more traffic. Yeah, no, absolutely. You do the first one. You get more traffic, and
Get more traffic. Yeah.
That's the one that you can control over. Now, I'm not saying you don't try to improve your follow-up process and your sales conversion. You should, always should be, but that's a slower process oftentimes. And by the way, increasing your conversion rate by 10% has minimal impact versus increasing your lead flow, even if your sales conversion doesn't increase. So, a lot of times it comes down to making sure that the metrics that we're measuring and focusing on are the ones that will give us more of an immediate result. Does that all make sense in terms of the stats tracking and getting a concept about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And and reverse engineering it, guys. Reverse engineer. Always begin with the end in mind. First thing I would do in my fitness business, I'd sat down at the beginning of the month and say, okay, how much money do I want to generate in my business this month over and above what my recurring revenue is? I had a recurring revenue model, and then I had a cash model as well. So if I wanted to make 10,000, 15,000 in addition to what my existing billing was each month, I just reverse engineered. Okay, I know that everyone that shows up, we're closing at 60%. I'm charging $1,000 for my TS. I want to make 15,000 this month. That means I need to do 15 sales. That means I need to get in front of my staff needs to have about 40 people in front of them to do 15 sales comfortably. So if I know they got to have 40 people in front of them, I know that we booked in our scheduled appointments, it was about 80% show rate. So I need to get like 60 scheduled appointments. I know that for TSs, 80%, that's 70% or whatever it was that's filled in, scheduled an appointment. So I need to get 100 TS applications. I know that for everyone that opt in, 60% of them fill out a TS form. So I need to get like 180 opt-ins on my funnel this month. And then that's where I put my energy into. And then I watch the numbers play out along the way. So it's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. I think this is a snapshot in history when we can actually control our income by controlling the input at the start of that sequence. But it starts by knowing all those metrics along the way. So step one for you guys is to make sure you're measuring all those different conversions along the way so that you are in a position to know what you need to do to get to that end result, to get to that income level. So that's the part on stats. Any questions on that, guys? I know that was a lot to take in a short period of time here. So any questions or clarifications that you want to ask on that?
No, it makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, it was a bit of a light bulb moment for me some years back when I realized that holy mackerel, like we say that up here in Canada, we say holy mackerel. I can control my income by simply getting more people in the front end of my funnel. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of activities to make sure that funnel opt-in gets loaded up. Don't beat yourself over the head because you're only converting at 40% or 30% or 20%. Just get more people in front of you. That's the easiest way, the fastest way to change your financial circumstance. All right. Okay, there's no questions on that. Let's move on to the follow-up process because there's a.
Could I just ask a question? Is there a sheet, like a list of activities or things that could be suggested, just so that it can generate ideas on how to get more people in front? Like
absolutely.
What kinds of things we can do?
Yeah, and I know the coaching team is, and David may want to comment on that because he's dealing with people all the time with organic and paid ways. Obviously, the first way is paid traffic, right? Spend more money, get more people, right? That's the most predictable way. Organically, there's a lot of strategies from doing booths, doing shows, doing events, buddy days. Anything that brings visitors and guests into your presence. And then once they're in your sphere, there needs to be a mechanism that gets them to opt in. So it's probably, you can't stand outside a grocery store and maybe get people to sign up for a TS session. However, you could stand outside a grocery store with a display and have people opt in for your newsletter and give them some nutritional tips or what have you. You could have a buddy day or an event at your gym where people bring a guest and there's something going on, but as an aside to that, they can opt in to receive your emails and your tips. And then along the way, those opt-ins are going to eventually fill out an application and they're going to get in front of you. So it's all about creating opportunities for people to come into your funnel and to get into your audience building. David, do you have anything you'd like to share from just being on the ground with this here on a daily basis?
Yeah, I would say that the best way to create these kind of opportunities is look at your own organic marketing. Look at how you're building your audience online with Facebook. I mean, your ads and everything is, ran through Facebook. So when you do this kind of organic stuff, not only are you getting more opportunities for people to opt in that way, but it honestly helps your ad too, because it's launching into warmer audiences. People are hearing about you. And honestly, Facebook's going to promote you up more if they know you're legit, if they know that you're popular. So they do promote ads more when they're more relevant to those kind of audiences. And, that's the kind of stuff where you can give away guides. Maybe you do like a free bicep blasting guide, and then you have them opt into your newsletter. Maybe you do, finish the summer out right recipe guides. You can give that away. Doing giveaways or 7-day video challenges like we have in module 6, check out that kind of stuff. It's just creating content and value for your audience to consume, and then they're going to be addicted to you and want to be a part of your audience, and it's much easier to get people to opt in that way.
Great advice, man. Great advice. And I obviously ran my businesses in the prior dawn of Facebook, so these types of things didn't exist. And when I was running my, so we did 30 or like grassroots marketing events every month in my locations, and they were hard. They were labor intensive. They were time consuming, but that's how we did it back then. And what David's referencing is a far smarter, time efficient way to get those same results, which is to expand your audience and people's awareness of what you do. Having said that, I still think there's a place for that, grassroots community event kind of activities like buddy days and other things. I think those will always have a place. In fact, it's probably smart business to balance out your online marketing and your in-person marketing, and just greater diversity and stability with marketing efforts. I think it's fun too. I think it's real for people. So I think combining the two is
community. If you're trying to do it local, I think that's a good idea.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. But great advice, David. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So in terms of all of these things, when you got all this stuff going on, we often feel that the selling is like a one and done event, right? They come in, they sit down, they do the TS, and then like they buy or they don't buy. And although that's the case, of course, what we know statistically, 50 like in my businesses and in other sectors I've looked at in selling, like we know that 50% on average of the population does not buy in their first transactional encounter with a service or product. So follow up, what that tells you is there's a lot of people that you're interacting with, even the people who don't sign up for your TSs. It doesn't mean they're not signing up for your program. It just means they're not doing it today. So if you have systems in place, and I think it's critical in the fitness industry especially, because what we know about the fitness consumer is they are transient by nature. I would say that every one of the people you have as clients have trained elsewhere before they trained with you. And I think that's, very rarely do we get someone who's never had training before that you're the first one they've ever encountered. Like, these people move around. And when CrossFit doesn't fit the bill for them anymore, and spin classes aren't doing it for them, and the DJ workout that they tried isn't working, and the two other personal trainers didn't fit with them, then they'll come to you and they'll find you. If you have the ability to stay connected with them, stay in their ear, so to speak, stay in front of them, so that when they come back around and they're ready to make a new buying decision, you're top of the list and you get your bite of the apple. I think the lost opportunity sometimes is having someone come through our funnel, come in front of us, not buy from us, and that's the last time we really contact them again. And that's, in my mind, a much easier sale to close in time than a fresh one. So what that means is you need to look at what your follow-up process is, not just for people who have yet to have their TSs, but what's your follow-up after they leave and they don't buy? What are you doing to stay in their ear? What are you doing to stay in front of that front of mind awareness, so that they're constantly thinking about you? So even if they're going and doing another activity, they're still thinking about you and what you can do for them. So when they're ready to buy again, you're the one they contact. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about email follow-ups. I'm talking about Facebook engagement. I'm talking about sending them stuff in the mail. Showing them that you're thinking about them and that you're looking forward to working with them when the time is right. And it takes effort. It takes organization. But those are the type of activities and follow-up, when you get those dialed in and automated and supported, that will bring you more sales. It's not just about the one and done.
Yeah, I actually got people back that way. I had a couple ladies that didn't sign up, and then they came back to me because I kept sending them. I put them on my newsletter. I put them in my public. I have a Facebook group, Iman's Healthy Eating for Life. So it works. Cool. I did have a couple. Not a lot, but I did have a couple. So
excellent.
That's good.
You know what? And those are sales those sales count. Okay, like they count just as much as the one that comes in off that first application and they sit down, they sign up. It's a sale, right? So the better we get at follow-up, and obviously we can talk about follow-up from opt-in to getting scheduled an appointment. All of those steps along the way, those are all important too. But really, it's persistence, You need to be persistent. You need to be resilient with your efforts in this area. And I'm not saying you chase people, because we got to go back to that prizing concept we talked about at the beginning. But it's not about chasing them. It's about, letting them know that you have something that could really help them, and making sure that they're reminded of you as much as possible. And you can automate a lot of this stuff in terms of your marketing strategies and your follow-up strategies, but it's being aware and attentive to it. I've talked to a lot of trainers that, have come through AJ's program and other programs, and sometimes they're sitting on hundreds of applications that they've never actually spoke with in person. And to me, that's a lot of lost sales that, with some dedicated nurturing and organized follow-up, will result in sales eventually. People buy in cycles, right? So some people buy at certain times of the year. Some people buy when there's a need they have going on, or there's an event that's happening. You may have someone that applies for a TS and then decides they just don't want to do it because it's not really a priority for them. But then 2 months later, they have a coworker that makes a comment about their weight or something, and it devastates them. And now they're in a completely different space. And if you're in their ear with emails and content, guess what they're going to maybe do? They're going to reach out to you because you happen to be right there. So I don't think we can underestimate the importance of staying in front of our audience. And again, David, feel free to jump in, because the ability to do that now on social media and to do it in an automated way is pretty incredible. So I would encourage you to really give some thought to that part of it. David, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of people underestimate the power of conversation on Facebook. Let's say you build that community, you get people to join your Facebook group, people opting in for your free guide. That's great. But, let's say they comment on something, you now have the ability to instantly start a conversation with someone who just commented. And I always recommend people to utilize Messenger. You don't have to wait until they give you their phone number anymore. You can just interact with a conversation right there. I had a guy who gets 100% of his clients just through connecting with people over Facebook. Never be afraid to not wait until you get on the phone or even until they fill out that application. Like, if you have someone you can connect with there, and maybe they've applied for something, you just haven't talked to them, but they're commenting on Facebook, get in a conversation with them. You never know what that's going to lead to. And never underestimate the power of just listening to them and asking the right questions and building a relationship there first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and the tools available to do that, like as you're referencing, are there. We just have to be doing, and this kind of brings me to my next point, and it ties into a question Caleb had. I know Caleb's on the call here, but he had put a question in before the call here about what strategies are there to bring a sale back from "I want to think about it" limbo. Okay, so we have those people that I just want to think about it, and obviously we can look at the whole process and did we do everything we could in terms of getting them motivated to act. But assuming we did, and they want to think about it, I think we need to keep in mind a couple of things. Maybe there's just not enough going on right now that they're ready to make that decision for themselves. So it's sometimes we have to accept the fact that people aren't going to jump right now. But if they're having to think about it, there's the question that I would ask them, Caleb, directly is, so can you tell me more what you need to think about? Like, can you elaborate on that statement? And I think asking for clarification, asking for elaboration may help illuminate what's really going on with them. Because it might not be they need to think about it. It might be they don't have the money in their minds to pay for this right now or something, right? So you need to figure out really what's going on when they ask that question. So, like, what kind of answers have you got when people say, "I want to think about it"? How do you respond typically?
I mean, sometimes I'm like, well, sometimes I've asked, "What do you want to think about?" you know, what is it? What, you know, what's holding you back? And a lot of times it's been, oh, well, it's just, you know, I just don't think I can pay for it right now, which I get. Or I really want to do this, but then they'll go into, but I need to talk to my spouse about it, which that's a whole nother thing. Like, because I'm not quite as ballsy as AJ and like, oh, well, you know, I think you're an awesome person, and I'm sure I can't like that. I can't do that yet. I'm not there. So that kind of sticks me like, oh, okay. I guess just call me back. Like I don't have anything for that. If I've asked them to elaborate and they're like, oh, I got to talk to my spouse about it. Okay. I mean, because I have to talk to my spouse about it. When I signed up for the program, I had to talk to my wife about it. You know, now I was planning on doing it. I just needed to make sure that she knew what was happening, you know, before I signed up the first time with you guys. But I did have to talk to her about it.
Okay. So there's a few different questions in there. Just, let me just run through one of the points I had here is one of the things we need to always separate out is a complaint versus an objection. Okay. So for example, someone says, man, that's like so much money, like $1,000. That's a lot of money. Is that an objection or is that a complaint?
It's just a complaint.
It's a complaint. It doesn't need a response, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to respond to that. You know, people tell me, like, I hear people talk all the time how expensive gas is, but it doesn't stop them filling up their cars. You know, people complain. Now, if they bring it up 3, 4, 5 times, then it might be an objection. But generally speaking, sometimes we feel the need to respond to something and overcome it when it's not even an objection to begin with. It's like, yeah, that's $1,500. That's $1,000, man. That's a lot of money. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of money. Can't wait to get you started, man. Let's get going here. So just move past it and get it. Now, if they say, I don't have that much money, it's like, okay, well, do you want to do the program? And it's important that you always, whenever you feel there's an objection, you need to step back and get a recommitment that they actually want to do the program. Because if the objection at the root of it is, I don't want to do this, then you're going to waste a lot of time trying to overcome objections that aren't even the right objection. So let me just for a minute, Caleb. Do you want to do this program?
Yes.
Okay. Are you 100% committed that if you get in this program, you'll follow everything, you'll do exactly what I lay out, you'll be committed to success? Are you committed to doing that?
Yes, I want this.
Okay. So I understand you're saying, you know, the money part. If the program was half the price, would you do it?
I think I could swing that. Yeah.
Let's do it, man. I'll break this into 2 payments. We'll do half now. We'll do half a month from now.
Okay, I see. I got you.
I'm not gonna like lead with that until I reaffirm your commitment to do the program, and secondly, your willingness to invest at a level that I'm prepared to go with. If you say no, I still couldn't do that, man, too much. What if it was 1/3 of the price? If it was 1/3 of the price, if this program was $300, would you do it? Yeah, I could do $300. Okay, let's do it. Let's break it up into 3 installments for you. We'll get you started with the first installment today, man. Let's book your first appointment. Let's get you in here and moving. And then you just move through the sale and close. And you stop selling at that point. Because once you've got that commitment from them, you go for it, right? And so sometimes you just have to frame it and not box them in, but make sure that you've got their commitment to do it. You've got an agreement on what they're going to invest. And then you move to going forward, because it'd be pretty hard for you at that point to back up and say, well, wait a sec, I've actually, you know, that is still too much money. It's like, you just said it wasn't. So so that's just a strategy, man. Nothing's foolproof, but I think that you really have to focus on making sure they're committed to doing the program, and then you can work out the logistics. Because if they want to do this, there really isn't an objection in the world that should hold them back.
I gotcha. So really, it sounds like I probably just need to go a little bit deeper then. And like you said, maybe just clarify a little bit more first, which is not what I've been doing. So, okay, cool. Yeah, I gotcha.
In terms of the spouse thing, sometimes it's real. Sometimes it's just a polite way of saying, man, I don't want to make this decision right now, so I'm just going to blame it on my spouse, right? So you need to figure that out as well. And you can figure it out by asking. So let me ask you, man, like, if you go home and your spouse says that they're not supportive, are you still going to do the program? Do you still want to do it? Like, the remove the spouse from the actual decision making. Like, put it back on them. Let them be responsible for their decision. Now, if they say, well, she's not going to say that, she's going to be supportive. Okay, well then let's go. Let's do it. Like, they just told you supportive. And you can do some risk reversal if you want. Like, you can say, look, I tell you what, man, like, it's $1,000 program. You know, let's get you enrolled. Let's get you signed up. We'll do 500 now. We'll do 500 a month from now. Or well, let's get you enrolled for the full program right now. If you go home tonight and your spouse says that they really prefer you staying fat, overweight, unhappy, miserable, you know, depressed, if that's what your spouse is insisting you do, I'll give you a full refund. How's that sound? You know, like, it's full risk reversal for them. Like, what are they going to say? It's like, it's like they go home and say, yeah, my spouse wants me to stay the same, or they go home and tell their spouse. They'll go home and tell, and you know, God help that spouse if they say no, because they're gonna say, what's the problem? You want me to stay like this? You want me to stay depressed? You want me to stay miserable? So you can definitely use some risk reversal on occasion when the situation warrants it.
I see.
The thing I've found is clarifying if they really are committed and wanting the change.
Okay.
And sometimes they're not. Like, sometimes they're just not that committed. And now you're trying to overcome price objections and spousal objections, and they're not even 100% in.
Yeah.
So I think that's a worthy back step to take in your sales process to make sure you've solidified their commitment first.
Okay. Cool. That helps.
Cool, man. So complaints versus objections, I think that's just something to be aware of. Don't feel you need to jump in and overcome something just because someone makes a statement. Like, I've tried other things in the past, but they just haven't worked for me. They haven't worked for me. Well, here's how my program's better. Here's how I'm going to help. Like, you don't need to do that. They just made a statement. Just acknowledge it. Agree with them. Agreement is huge. I understand. I understand how difficult it can be to follow programs and to find success. It can be difficult. It can be challenging. Right. Were there any elements of the program that you were able to be successful with? Like, what did work for you? So you start trying to find common ground as you go through the process. So rather than try to overcome and counter everything that the client might be saying that you perceive as a block, I would encourage you to agree with what the client is saying and find common ground. At the end of the day, when you get to the end of their sales process, you're going to want them to agree with you that they need to do this program. So if you can get 5, 6, 7 agreements, little agreements along the way, the likelihood you're going to get a larger agreement at the end of the sales process is much higher.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So oftentimes when I've listened in on my own trainers in a sales conference or consultation or whatever, I hear a lot of counter, like correction, like education, like this is the reason that didn't work for you is that you didn't do this and this, and my program is going to do this. So it makes the person feel like they're in opposition to you. People don't want to buy from someone they're in opposition to. Find agreement. You can educate them along the way. And by the way, there's lots of time to educate them when you have them as a client for 12 weeks versus that first hour. You don't have to do a lot of correcting and educating in that hour. Find agreement, find common ground, find a reason why they need to work with you, and invite them to do that.
I gotcha.
Follow up. So and Caleb, so that was your question. And Maya had a similar question. Actually, Maya's not on the call, Maya Shante, but she had asked, what do you do if the pain isn't really that deep? How do you build up the problem to then show them the solution? And that's a great question. And I think it goes back to that pricing notion that we talked with. I would actually ask that client, well, it sounds like you've got a lot of things going well. Why did you reach out to me? Why should I work with you? What are you needing? Like, I would invite that client to find the reasons why they should, why I should work with them. And I think when you play that role reversal, it avoids you having to be playing the guessing game inventing problems perhaps that they don't even really have. Having said all that, sometimes you're going to get people in front of you that just aren't a good fit. You know, we'd get people come in that, in my businesses, we'd have people that come in that are doing like 5 different other activities right now. You know, they're doing all these kinds of Groupon deals and they're bouncing around. They're not committed. They're not serious. They're probably not a good fit for my program. And sometimes we got to accept that. And it's pretty empowering to be able to say no to people, like, you actually don't qualify for my program. And there's a few things that, if they changed, would make you a great candidate for my program. That's okay. And I know it's hard to do, guys, when you're trying to build your business and everyone you get in front of you want to sell because it's going to help your revenue. But it's actually, for the long term, it's a better mindset for you. And for those of you that have staff, I guarantee you it can take the pressure off them incredibly when you give them permission to not qualify everyone to be in your program, unless you have other programs that you can kind of downsell into. But for the most part, it's okay that some people might not be a good fit, because if you bring someone into your program that really isn't in the right vibe of everyone else, they will negatively impact potentially your entire, you know, fitness community that you're establishing. So it's okay to be selective, and it's okay to have people that aren't a good fit, that you don't have to sell everyone into what you do. And that puts you back in that prizing position where people will leave and say, holy crap, like, what happened there? I think I want to go back and train with that guy or girl. And maybe they will become a good candidate. So in that regard. Guys, any questions on any of these things we've talked about here? We have about 10 minutes left. So I'll throw it open to any questions you guys want to ask.
Yeah, I had a question regarding building a Facebook group. There's a guy in my town who, what he's been doing is offering to train people for free online for in exchange for like 50 to 100 invites to his group. What do you guys think?
I think there's lots of strategies out there that can help you grow your groups. And you gotta realize who's coming into that group and for what purpose, right? So you always want to build your group with as much of a qualified, you know, prospect as you can. David, you may have some thoughts on that end of things in terms of group promotion, but my own philosophy on building out my groups, I had my fitness groups and private groups, and I always started with my nucleus, like with my core, and expanded it out from there. And yes, you could provide, you know, incentives for people to invite people to the group, but again, you know, targeted invites are going to get you a lot better qualified people in your group. And you know, it's easy to come add 500 or 1,000 people. You can buy that many people to come into your group. It doesn't necessarily going to move your business forward. So I'd be more strategic with who I sought out in terms of adding people to the group. David, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's similar to what you said. You probably want to use some of the strategies we lay out in audience building and group creation, you know, providing free content that is quick and easy, giving your personality as something for someone to connect to. When you do things like give away like a whole training program for free like that, what you're really doing is devaluing your product. And when someone comes in just so they can get free training, why the heck, you know, in their head, you're now valued at free. It's hard for them to jump from that value of free to your high-end program. So you need to be careful how you bring those people in and how you value yourself, because something like that's going to really devalue and give you a harder time in the long run. Where if you do it just naturally and give out content that way, it's a lot easier for people to transition to the product that you're actually trying to sell.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more on the value piece. There's a school of thought out there that the first price you tell someone is imprinted on their brain forever. That's your value. And I learned this firsthand. When I first started training, I charged people $39 a month for training. And this is going back like 25 years, but it was $39 a month. Those same people came back to me when I was charging, you know, $600 plus per month for training. And they could not get their head around. They could not get their head around the fact that how could I be worth $600 a month when I was worth $39 a month the last time they were in contact with me. So, and I think we experienced this with Groupon deals. We experienced it with a lot of those deal sites. People come in for $21 for 21 days or $14 for 14 days or whatever. And it's like pulling teeth sometimes to convince them that, no, that's not really my value. My value is this. Because in their mind, you just told them you're worth $21 for 21 days. And now you've got to deprogram them. And that can be very challenging. So be careful about giving away free programs. It's one thing to do an initial consultation with no charge. It should still have a perceived attached value to that initial consultation. But free programs, wouldn't recommend that, even if you're building some kind of audience behind it. Any other questions?
Cool. Thank you for answering that one. That really clarifies a lot for me.
No problem, Gil. Got a few minutes left.
I can't think of anything.
Last chance, guys. Come on.
You know, Yvonne, all the questions come 5 minutes after the call. You guys
How
found
are you
this
guys
helpful
doing
at
on
all?
Facebook Live videos? Is everybody doing it? Is everybody doing the new challenge? That works well. For me, I like the Facebook Live. I get a lot of response from that. And I boost it. I boost them within 24 hours. And that helps. And I put a link sometimes to the form. And that helps me. And I get people. I've gotten a few people. Not a lot, but it's cheap. So it's another way to.
Yeah.
But I don't know how anybody's doing on that. So
I think it goes back to knowing what's working statistically for your numbers and then focusing on the activities that make that happen. One of the things that I think is very powerful is sometimes we focus on our goals, but it's really the activities that make the goals real. So, you know, if we know that what are the activities that you need to do to bring more people into your funnel, you know, you need to make X number of telephone calls every day. You need to send out so many emails. You need to do Facebook Live 3 times a week. Like, those are all activities. And if we focus on doing those, the goals kind of take care of themselves.
okay.
So don't get detached from the daily grind of the activities, because that's really where the results will come from. So yes, I think it's more about sticking with it, Yvonne, and not getting deterred from it or distracted from it just because maybe it's feeling tedious or you've got 2 people on or 1 person on. And it's like, no one's really watching. I'm just going to stop. Keep doing it. Be consistent with it. And it'll feed the greater result.
David, should I just deal with the issues I'm having with the integration and that with you personally on the site?
Yeah, I'll help you with that personally. We'll get this figured out.
All right, thanks.
Okay, guys. So just to wrap up here, we started off the call talking about mindset. We talked about the value, the importance of prizing yourself in the relationship with the prospect. We talked about the importance of stats and knowing your numbers, and then making sure that you're controlling your income by controlling your input into that sequence. We talked about follow-up and how important that is. Important to focus on the activities, the tasks that actually make an impact to those key metrics. Talked about the difference between a complaint and objection, and basically, you know, making sure that all of these things are working together with your conviction, your mindset being in the right place, and going back to what works when need be, making sure you're reminding yourself of what you do and the value of it, and recognizing that first and foremost, you're in sales. That's what you're in. It just happens to be fitness, health, wellness that you're selling, but you are all salespeople. That is your number one thing. If Corey was on here, he'd say it was marketing, but it's sales, just in case you ever talk to him. It's not marketing. All right. Any last questions, guys, you want to ask me?
No.
Very useful content, Cathal. Thank you.
I thought it was really good, especially the stats, because I haven't been doing it.
Yeah.
Get on those. There's only 5 or 6 you need to measure. That's it.
And they're simple.
Know those numbers. Know those numbers. And the first
That's why
30
you're
days
the
of all,
big head hunter.
just track them for the first 30 days. Just track them. Don't even worry about like improved. Just track them, know what they are. Then you can start getting into them. And in the meantime, load up that front end of the funnel so that those numbers start to improve. All right, guys. I really enjoyed that. I think I'm going to be doing this every couple of months. I think we're taking turns. I think we got Amanda coming up, but Corey's going to be doing these trainings. AJ doing these trainings. So we got more of them coming up in the future. So
yeah, and these are every other week, right? This Thursday one.
that's right. Yeah.
Confirm that. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Yep.
And Peter,
Fantastic.
if you want to do the practice, we can practice. Just let me know. Peter wants to practice.
Yeah, you got it. I'm open to practicing transformation sessions, sales, anything to anybody as well too. If anybody
That isn't a
wants.
key
I need to
activity.
practice still. 6 months, 8 months later, I'm still practicing.
Exactly.
Sign up with you guys.
To be practicing.
January.
Yeah, like let's maximize our ad spend. You know, like there's nothing worse than having like 10 applicants and you can't close any of them, and then you feel like shit. So like, let's get some practice under our belts, and then when those apps come in, you'll be ready to roll.
I haven't closed the last 3, and I keep getting them. I need to talk to my husband. So I try 3 times to overcome it, and then I finally just say, okay. So I kind of do what you guys tell me. The same thing, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I usually try to get a deposit regardless, and when I get a deposit, it usually works, and when I don't get a deposit, nope.
Yeah, the deposit.
99.999%.
What the deposit will do, Yvonne, it will separate out people who are seriously considering doing it and those that aren't. Because if they're not willing to put a deposit down, they're probably not serious. They're probably just trying to give you.
Don't bring their checkbooks. I told AJ this once. I go, how does somebody not bring a checkbook or a credit card? They drive there, it takes a few miles. They don't. Somehow, I think that's a lie. But so that's what I get. It's a lie.
Okay,
but okay.
I'm going to jump off. I'm going to jump off here.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this. Thanks so much
Thank
for your
you.
input and participation. And we'll chat again in a couple of months when I do this next time. Okay. Thanks, David. Thanks for hosting.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.